With so many amazing games being launched and ported to the Nintendo Switch, there are a ton of options in a variety of genres, and no small amount in the ever-growing survival crafting genre. There are many excellent titles to choose from where you'll have to fight to survive, scrounge and forage for food, and craft what you need to make it in the stark wilderness where Mother Nature can be more brutal than any monster. We're not talking about first-person shooters with elements of survival and horror, but these are games where you'll start with nothing and have to figure out how to stay alive. No Man's Sky is another survival game that seemingly crashed and burned upon its buggy launch, but with tons of free updates over the years, its port on the Switch is the exact kind of space exploration survival game you'd want to play. You can explore infinite galaxies of unique planets and alien life forms to find rich resources on long-forgotten planets, with the ability to craft, upgrade, and build anything you need for your exploration. Often described as 2D Minecraft, Terraria is a pixelated survival game that sees you forage, mine, craft, and build up a home for you and some characters. Explore the world and delve deep beneath the surface in order to face the great threats that await. With years worth of content, you can easily get lost in this game for hundreds of hours, building, fighting, and even adapting to the post-game content that will keep you coming back for more. It's one of the best survival games out there, and on Switch it's even better. When Ark Survival Evolved first launched on the Switch, it was one of the worst gaming experiences, but with the release of Ark Ultimate Survivor Edition, the game has been reborn. With updated graphics, better optimization, and the inclusion of every expansion pack, you'll have hundreds of hours of gameplay here. Exploring prehistoric jungles and trying to survive amidst dinosaurs, this game is finally the experience it should have been back in 2018. In addition, the developers have been transparent about future updates and diligent with bug fixes, and the community is thriving with dedicated players. With over 50 hours of content and a multiplayer mode, The Survivalist is another great survival game on the Switch. Its pixel art style is charming, but don't let that fool you. You'll hunt or be hunted by animals, including mythical enemies, and you'll have to survive by making the most of the resources around you. You can tame monkeys and train them to help you with your everyday tasks or provide backup when you raid camps, and you can even go dungeon crawling in the island's labyrinth. This modern remake of the Oregon Trail brings beautiful, updated graphics, a charming new OST, and all the spirit of the original game. You set off as a party on the road to Oregon, facing perils at every turn from hungry wolves and endless blizzards to starvation and dysentery. Making it to Oregon is no easy feat. There are over 100 achievements to go for as well, each providing unique tasks and goals to accomplish. While the gameplay might be simple, you'll need a foolproof strategy and a lot of luck to survive each journey. The random element also greatly improves the replayability, making each new run unique. Dysmantle is a post-apocalyptic survival crafting game where you can destroy almost anything. At its core, Dysmantle is a quintessential survival crafting game where you can gather resources, craft new equipment, build a base, hunt for food, and fight off enemies. That said, the progression in Dysmantle is incredibly satisfying, as you're always unlocking new recipes, discovering new secrets, or finding new resources. If you want a fairly laid-back survival game set in the zombie apocalypse, Dysmantle is the perfect option. Death Road to Canada is a survival roguelike where you take on the zombie apocalypse with a random assortment of dysfunctional survivors on a journey to Canada. Being a roguelike, each run has randomized elements, from the equipment you find to the events you encounter. Gameplay-wise, Death Road to Canada plays like a top-down shooter with a nice mix of weapons, both ranged and melee, to keep things interesting. There are also tons of different characters to recruit, including the ability to make your own custom characters that you can then find while on the road to Canada. And Dying Light is an open-world survival horror game set in the zombie apocalypse. You play as Kyle Crane, a member of the global relief effort tasked with investigating the city of Heron that is on the verge of succumbing to a zombie outbreak. Exploring the city means using every tool at your disposal to combat the zombie threat. Dying Light is perhaps most well known for its parkour system, allowing you to traverse the city in any number of ways and tackle combat creatively. Plus, this definitive edition of the game includes all past DLC and content, giving dozens of hours of gameplay. To sweeten the deal, you can even play with up to 3 other players in co-op, working to survive the apocalypse together. Like the Oregon Trail, the Red Lantern is about making proper decisions to ensure your survival while you traverse a dangerous landscape. In this game, you play as a musher who must travel through the isolated wilds of Alaska to reach her new home. With your 5 sled dogs by your side, you'll have to make important choices like which path to follow, when and how to use your limited ammunition, and whether to use medicine to heal yourself or your loyal crew of canines. Wrong decisions can lead to a swift ending for your character. But every time you try again, the knowledge you gained from previous runs will allow you to make better decisions and survive the wilderness. Sheltered is a post-apocalyptic disaster management game where you'll have to protect 4 family members in an underground shelter. As you try to keep them alive and scavenge the desolate wastelands, you'll soon realize that every choice you make has consequences for the family. The game is fun and challenging at times, with plenty of customization and perfectly balanced gameplay that makes you want to build the best possible shelter for your character. With the randomness of its world generation, there is plenty of replayability. There's not much that needs to be said about Minecraft. We all know it and we've all played it, but the Nintendo Switch edition of the game is a ton of fun because you can take the game anywhere, investing hours in the sandbox game crafting and building the home of your dream. With cross-save, you can take your game from the PC to the bed with your Switch, and there's also a dungeon crawling Minecraft game, Minecraft Dungeons, if survival is not your go-to genre. But then what are you doing here? Enduring the harsh conditions of a tropical island is challenging enough, but making sure your fellow castaways don't vote you out is the ultimate challenge in this game, inspired by the popular reality series. Not only will you have to gather supplies like firewood and food, but you'll also need to work on your relationships with the other castaways to reach the final 3 and have a chance to earn the title of Sole Survivor. The game plays as a roguelite, as each season you play through will have various outcomes based on your actions. Everything you do matters, whether you're using all your stamina to improve camp life or creating too many alliances that end with betrayal. There's definitely room for improvement, but if you still love Survivor or want some social elements in your survival games, you're in for a good time. If anything's gonna be tough to survive, it's a war. This war of mine is a poignant take on the survival genre, focusing on civilians in the warring fictional city of Pogor and Grasnavia. Using materials and tools that you can find, you'll need to keep groups of citizens alive until a ceasefire by managing hunger, health, and mood level. The game follows a day and night cycle, with different objectives depending on the time of day. At night, you can scavenge for items, and during the day, you can craft using what you found. The complete edition includes 3 new stories and the Little Ones DLC, where you play from the harrowing perspective of a child. In this sandbox space survival game, you play as an Astroneer, risking your life to explore the frontier of space. You'll work to build a custom base using the planet's natural resources, either solo or in online co-op with 3 friends. With its bright and vivid art style, the game itself is gorgeous, and although it lacks any story, the in-depth gameplay found here will enthrall you. Playing Astroneer with friends is even more fun as you work towards goals, build, craft, and explore to your heart's content, surviving in space. You'll definitely get your money's worth with Astroneer. Arguably the most realistic survival sim game, Green Hell sees you lost in the Amazonian jungle equipped with only your bare hand. You'll have to survive in this nightmarish environment by learning actual survival techniques and having to battle against the loneliness and despair of being alone in the jungle. There are various ways you can survive with satisfying crafting and construction system. If you manage to survive, the story is another strong element here. Blending Rouge Light survival and action RPG, Tribes of Midgard sees you defending your village from hordes of monsters who want to destroy the seed of Yggdrasil. If you love Viking culture and want something more intense than Valheim, this game is for you. The game consistently gets new content with seasonal updates and new bosses. To have the best experience, you'll need to play with friends, as the game can become a chore otherwise. Shipwrecked alone on an uncharted island, you play as Kara, a warrior thrown from her boat and tossed onto the shores of this mysterious and beautiful paradise. Windbound is a classic survival game in every sense, where you'll start with no food, water, tools, or boat. It's both equally intense and relaxed in its gameplay, and you can spend hours exploring and crafting only to end up permanently dying and having to start from nothing all over again. Alone on an island in the middle of the ocean, Stranded Deep will require you to scavenge, hunt, and fight for your life. Explore the depths of the sea, craft the means to travel to other islands, and find a way to get yourself home. While you'll need to keep yourself fed and rested, you'll also need to defend yourself. Sharks patrol these waters, and while there is a lot of valuable loot to be found on the ocean floor, there are also constant threats deep below the surface, and perhaps more than you might be ready for. Don't Starve has been the gold standard of survival games since it was initially launched in 2013, but its port to the Switch really elevates the experience of this game. It feels almost made for the Switch, with the visuals and art style standing out. The gameplay requires strategy and skill to make it through the night, and the longer you survive, the more complex the game gets. With the release of the multiplayer expansion Don't Starve Together, you'll get even more experiences out of the game as you try to survive with friends. With immersive first-person exploration gameplay and an original art style, The Long Dark will make you feel the cold of the freezing Canadian wilderness. The game uses the classic man versus nature theme to its advantage, with its realistic gameplay that feels rewarding. As you battle the elements and oppressive wilderness, you'll feel gratified with its progression as you learn to survive efficiently. With both a story and sandbox mode, you won't feel like you're running out of things to do in this game. The Flame and the Flood is a roguelite survival where you play a girl traversing down a river in forgotten post-societal America with your dog. Everything from the art style done by BioShock veterans to the masterful audio design and satisfying gameplay make this game an excellent experience on the Switch. You'll find yourself motivated to survive and care for your dog, and with the game's carefully crafted progression, you'll feel like you've survived and grown along the way. The Switch port of Subnautica and the Below Zero sequel both look beautiful on the Switch, even in handheld mode. The open-world survival game starts after a crash landing in your life pod on a strange alien world. You'll have to traverse the depths of this planet's ocean to salvage resources and survive whilst dealing with terrifying deep-sea creatures. Will you be able to leave this unfamiliar place alive? Subnautica is a masterful gaming experience with its atmospheric world creation and endless vast ocean depths to explore. There's a reason it's one of the best survival games out there. Outward is an open-world action RPG with survival elements. You begin as an unremarkable adventurer exploring the dangerous land of Ori, fighting off monsters, staying fed and hydrated, tending to your wounds, and generally trying to stay alive. As you explore and help others, you'll gain fame and can even eventually begin the rebuilding of a refugee camp into your own city. Outward is the perfect zero-to-hero experience, where every great accomplishment is won through hard work and dedication.